Your engine is struggling right now, and you probably do not even realize it. That rough idle you've been ignoring, the sluggish acceleration you blamed on cold weather, the check engine light that keeps flickering on and off. Most owners assume these problems mean expensive repairs. But here is what mechanics do not want you to know. The majority of engine problems come from the same handful of causes, and fixing them costs almost nothing. I have been working on engines for over 15 years, and I have lost count of how many times I have seen owners spend thousands on diagnostics and repairs when a $20 part would have solved everything. The pattern is always the same. Someone brings in their vehicle convinced the engine is failing. They are ready to pay for a new catalytic converter, a complete fuel system overhaul, or worse. Then I check the basics and find a problem that costs less than a decent lunch to fix. Today we are going through cheap upgrades that fix 96% of engine problems. These are not temporary Band-Aid solutions or snake oil additives that promise miracles. These are proven mechanical fixes that address the root causes of the most common engine issues. Upgrade number 3 has saved me personally from recommending major repairs at least 100 times. And upgrade number 1 is something so simple that most people overlook it completely, yet it is responsible for more engine problems than any other single factor. The best part is, you do not need special tools or mechanical expertise. Most of these upgrades take less than 30 minutes with basic hand tools. A few require nothing more than popping open your hood and making a simple swap. We are talking about real solutions that professional mechanics use every day but rarely share, because honestly, fixing these problems yourself means they lose business. Let me be clear about something. I am not against mechanics or dealerships. Good technicians are worth every dollar they charge. But there is a difference between legitimate repairs that require professional expertise and simple maintenance items that anyone can handle at home. The upgrades we are covering fall into that second category. They are the automotive equivalent of changing your own oil or replacing windshield wipers. Simple tasks that save you money without risking damage to your vehicle. If your engine has been running rough, burning more fuel than it should, or just feels tired compared to when you first bought it, pay close attention. The solution might cost you less than a tank of gas. Let's start with something that sounds too simple to matter, but actually causes more drivability problems than most people realize. Your AAR filter. That rectangular or cone-shaped filter sitting in your engine bay is responsible for every breath of air your engine takes. And when it gets clogged, your engine suffocates. Here is what happens when an air filter gets dirty. The engine needs a precise mixture of air and fuel to run efficiently. Modern engines use sensors to measure incoming airflow and adjust fuel delivery accordingly. When your air filter restricts airflow, less air enters the engine, and the sensors compensate by reducing fuel delivery to maintain the correct ratio. That keeps the engine running, but it reduces power because you are burning a smaller air-fuel charge with each combustion cycle. The symptoms start gradually. You notice the engine feels a little sluggish during acceleration. Fuel economy drops by a few percentage points. The idle becomes slightly rougher. Most owners adapt to these changes without realizing anything is wrong because the decline happens slowly over thousands of miles. Then the problems compound. A clogged air filter creates negative pressure in the intake system. This can pull unfiltered air past deteriorating gaskets and seals, introducing dirt directly into your engine. Once abrasive particles enter the combustion chamber, they score cylinder walls and damage piston rings. What started as a $20 filter replacement becomes a multi-$1,000 engine rebuild. The potential damage is real. I have pulled air filters out of vehicles that looked like someone stuffed them with dryer lint and dead leaves. The owners had no idea because they never thought to check. The filter might have been in there for 60,000 miles or more, yet changing it takes about 5 minutes and requires no tools on most vehicles. It only takes minutes. The fix is simple. Open your hood, locate the air filter housing, unclip or unbolt the cover, remove the old filter, drop in the new one, and close everything back up. Most auto parts stores carry filters for every common vehicle, and they cost between $15 and $30 depending on your application. For the best results, upgrade to a quality filter rather than grabbing the cheapest option on the shelf. Premium filters use better filtration media that captures smaller particles while flowing more air. Some brands offer washable, reusable filters that last the life of your vehicle. The upfront cost is higher, but you never buy another filter again. How often should you replace it? Most manufacturers recommend every 15 to 30,000 miles, but that is under ideal conditions. If you drive on dirt roads, live in a dusty climate, or frequently sit in traffic where you are breathing exhaust from other vehicles, check your filter every oil change. Hold it up to a light source. If you cannot see light passing through, it is time for a replacement. This single upgrade, which costs less than dinner for two, eliminates rough idle, restores lost horsepower, improves fuel economy, and prevents long-term engine damage from contamination. Yet most owners never touch their air filter until a mechanic pulls it out during a service and shows them how bad it looks. Now let's talk about something that causes even more problems than a dirty air filter, and it is equally cheap to fix: your spark plugs. These little ceramic and metal components create the spark that ignites the air-fuel mixture in each cylinder. When they wear out, everything falls apart. A spark plug works by creating an electrical arc across a small gap at the tip. This arc ignites the compressed air-fuel mixture, creating the controlled explosion that pushes the piston down and makes power. Each spark plug fires thousands of times per minute during normal driving. Over time, the metal electrodes erode and the gap widens. A wider gap requires more voltage to jump, and eventually, the ignition system cannot deliver enough energy to create a consistent spark. The symptoms of worn spark plugs mirror serious engine problems: rough idle that makes your vehicle shake at stoplights, misfires that cause the engine to stumble during acceleration, poor fuel economy as unburned fuel passes through the engine without contributing to power, difficulty starting, especially in cold weather, hard acceleration that feels flat and unresponsive. I have diagnosed vehicles where the owner was convinced they needed a new fuel injection system or catalytic converter. They had already gotten quotes from other shops totaling $2,000 or more. Then I pulled the spark plugs and found electrodes worn down to nothing. A set of replacement plugs costing $40 to $80 fixed everything. The worst part is worn spark plugs can damage other components if you ignore them long enough. Misfires send unburned fuel into the exhaust system where it can overheat and destroy your catalytic converter. A new catalytic converter costs anywhere from $500 to $2,500 depending on your vehicle, all because of spark plugs that should have been replaced 50,000 miles earlier. Modern platinum and iridium spark plugs last significantly longer than the copper plugs used in older vehicles. Most manufacturers recommend replacement intervals between 60,000 and 100,000 miles, but these are maximum limits, not guarantees. If you are experiencing any symptoms of ignition problems, check your plugs regardless of mileage. Replacing spark plugs falls somewhere between easy and moderately difficult depending on your engine layout. Four-cylinder engines with the spark plugs sitting on top are usually straightforward. V6 and V8 engines might have plugs buried under intake manifolds or hidden at the back of the engine bay where access is limited. In those cases, a mechanic might be worth the labor costs simply because they have the tools and experience to access tight spaces efficiently. When buying replacement plugs, always match the exact specifications for your engine. Spark plugs come in different heat ranges, thread sizes, and reach lengths. Using the wrong plug can cause detonation, pre-ignition, or physical contact between the plug and piston. Your owner's manual or a parts store computer can tell you exactly which plug number you need. Here's a tip that saves money on labor if you are paying a shop. Spark plug replacement pairs well with other services that require similar disassembly. If a mechanic already has your intake manifold removed for another repair, ask them to replace the plugs while they are in there. The labor costs drop significantly because the access work is already done. For vehicles with coil-on-plug ignition systems, which covers most cars built after 2000, consider replacing the ignition coils at the same time if they are original equipment with high mileage. Coils do not wear like plugs do, but they can develop internal fractures that cause intermittent misfires. A set of coils adds another $100 to $200, but eliminates another potential failure point. This brings us to something that seems completely unrelated to engine performance, but actually causes more problems than people realize. Your engine coolant temperature sensor. This little sensor screws into your engine block or cylinder head and measures how hot the coolant is running. That information goes to your engine computer, and the computer uses it to make critical decisions about fuel delivery, ignition timing, and emissions controls. When the coolant temperature sensor fails or reads incorrectly, your engine computer thinks conditions are different than they actually are. If the sensor reports the engine is colder than reality, the computer delivers extra fuel for cold start enrichment, even though the engine is already warm. This causes rich running conditions that foul spark plugs, contaminate oil with fuel, and increase emissions. If the sensor reports hotter than actual temperature, the computer leans out the fuel mixture to prevent overheating damage. This creates lean running conditions that cause detonation, hesitation, and potential engine damage from combustion temperatures running too high. The symptoms of a bad coolant temperature sensor are frustratingly vague. Poor fuel economy, rough idle when cold or when warm, or both, black smoke from the exhaust that indicates rich conditions, hesitation during acceleration, check engine light with codes pointing to fuel system or emissions problems, difficulty starting in certain temperature conditions. I have diagnosed countless vehicles where the owner chased these symptoms through the fuel system, ignition system, and emissions components before someone finally checked the coolant temperature sensor. A sensor that costs $10 to $25 and takes 15 minutes to replace was causing all the drama. The fix involves draining some coolant, unscrewing the old sensor, applying thread sealant to the new one, and screwing it into place. You will need a socket or wrench that fits the sensor's hex body, and you should be prepared to catch some coolant when you remove the old sensor. Top off your coolant level after installation and run the engine to operating temperature while checking for leaks around the new sensor. What makes this upgrade so effective is how many other problems it eliminates through proper diagnosis. When your engine computer receives accurate temperature information, it can manage fuel delivery and timing correctly. This allows all the other systems to work as designed. Problems that seemed unrelated suddenly disappear because the root cause was simply bad data from a $20 sensor. If you are enjoying these cheap fixes that solve real problems, hit that subscribe button right now, because we are only getting started. The next upgrades address problems that plague millions of vehicles, and the solutions are just as affordable as what we have already covered.